Welcome, everyone, to the Feminine Outliers podcast, your dose of fun, life advice, and experiences from two African professional women living and working in the Western world. We are your hosts, Cholwe Mandona,
And Zelda Wasau.
and we are excited to have you here. Before we get started, you might be wondering who we are. Well, I am originally from Zambia. I am a practicing water engineer currently in the UK that designs water treatment facilities and pipelines to bring clean and safe water.
I am originally from Kenya, and I am a medical doctor practicing internal medicine in New Jersey, USA. So, this is a podcast that aims to educate, enlighten, and enrich professional minority women in all our different spheres of life while having fun and enjoying ourselves at the same time. We want to create a safe space for us to discuss our lives and the daily nuances that surround them with the ultimate goal of being better versions of ourselves.
Yes, as we left our home countries and transitioned into a new country and culture, we found ourselves having to learn new ways of doing things, and that's actually how we connected. We would reflect on similarities and differences with our upbringing and our current place of living. We also shared our trials and tribulations and exchanged tips and ideas to navigate them. Some of these actions were pretty new, and not to mention, our families back home were unable to relate to our current lifestyles. However, we have since grown and continue to do so, such that we wanted to expand our couch talks with you all. In short, these are your bold, beautiful sisters that are coming to your living room. Yes, your living room to share, inspire, celebrate so that you are not afraid to be an outlier also. So, the topic of the day is coming to America. So, Zelda and I actually first met in the US while studying at Miami University of Ohio. Yes, it's the Miami University in Ohio. Shout out to the Red Hawks and shout out to Swoop if Swoop is still the mascot. So, um, yeah. Um, so college was actually our first transition from our hometowns to a new country. So, leaving what we knew to come to the US to pursue an education and really just start a journey that we didn't even know where we were going to go with it. I came to Miami University to study chemical engineering, and Zelda, you were studying.
Kinesiology and health, basically as my pre-med major.
Yes, and yeah, and so we connected, and I know we connected through the African Student Union. So shout out to the African Student Union at Miami University. We love you guys. It was such a great time for us during our time. So I remember the first shock to me when I first came to the US was the food. I it was it was different. It was like obviously you need to eat to survive, and I just remember going into the food hall, and you have a card, you tap or swipe your card. I don't remember what it was, but something like that. And then you get into the food hall and you have all these options to your disposal, and you could decide whatever you wanted to eat. Um, and I just remember, oh my goodness, there is so much food with the different options, but also you could eat as much as you wanted. um, and that was a lot, and I definitely ate a whole lot in college. So I don't know, was that the same thing for you, Zil?
I mean, I think for food, it was somewhat of a culture shock. Not as I wouldn't say it is as big as yours, but it was somewhat of a culture shock just because the food was a bit different. I mean, obviously, American food is very different from what food we grew up with. I think the biggest appeal I had was fast food, just because back home, um, I feel like fast food, at least at the time, because this was what, 10 plus years ago, 10 years ago?
Oh
Oh my,
my goodness!
we're old. I
I know. Yes.
feel like at the time, the fast food, at least in Kenya, was more of like a luxury kind of thing. Like it was really expensive to eat out. So coming here and fast food was so cheap. And also like the fact that we, as you said, we had money on our cards that so it seemed like we and it was a lot of money. So we were just like we could eat out a lot. It was a really big like that was really interesting. And then what I did not realize at the time, which I realize now, is that the portion sizes were huge. I mean, I did realize it when it came to drinks because the small in the US is the big in Kenya.
Mm.
And I remember drinks is the one place I was like, wow, like the sizes are really big. I didn't realize it also translated into food sizes. And because of that, I think I definitely gained the freshman 15.
Oh yeah.
I went.
Oh yes, I did gain freshman 15 as well. I it's funny you reminded me of a time when I was studying for an exam. Or there was just so much going on the next day. I needed to finish up my assignment and study for an exam. And I was staying in Ogden Hall, and we had a sort of like a place outside you could buy stuff, and usually people that came from the bars outside the campus would come back to want to eat something. So anyway, I remember I think it was like 11 p.m. to midnight, and I remember just eating or going to that to this place to this cafeteria and getting I got fries. I got what they called a blizzard ice cream, like a it's like an ice cream milkshake. Um
What?
yeah, I got yes. And I can't remember what else I got, but it was in a span of like 1 hour. And I had all of that, and that was my way of keeping myself awake and just motivating myself like you got this, you got this. Oh man, that was that was a lot. That was a lot now. Um yeah, that was a lot.
I would also say like the food. I don't know if it had as much flavor or like spice or like American food tends to be a little bit more bland, and I realized that. I mean, now Kenyan food is not spicy, but we like a lot of flavor and stuff. I personally felt like American food did not even have much of flavor.
Mm.
You know what you're eating, I mean, but like, yeah.
I know. I guess it was like there wasn't did you ever go out of campus to go eat at I think there was an Indian restaurant that came up, and the other Chinese restaurant.
I think the Indian restaurant was called Krishna.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, I did. I actually used to love going there because I mean that was like it just made me feel more
Yeah,
homey.
like that was tastier. It was like tastier food. And yes, I remember. That was like, oh, I'm going to treat myself, so I'm going go out of campus and then go and get. Yeah, I remember. Yes. I don't remember what the Chinese restaurant was called. Um
Me either.
but I remember we would go, and I remember having things. I would have like General Tso's chicken. Um those were the days. Um Yeah, no, those were the days. The other thing that I think was a bit of a shocker to me when I first came was the fashion. Now, I think, and I came in the summer, and I have to say, in the summer fashion in the US, and I think also seen it now in the UK. um it's different. It's people wear like tank tops, people wear shorts, and I just never saw that as much in Zambia. Like, people will still in Zambia, people, when it's hot, people are still gonna wear like a shirt, a dress shirt, and they'll still wear like jeans, long jeans. I think things are changing. I guess I haven't been there. I haven't been there in the summer because I just was recently there in the winter. But yeah, that was different because I remember I in my suitcase I didn't own any shorts. So when I first came, I was wearing like t-shirt and jeans, and other people were like, "No, this is really, really, really hot."
Yeah, that's funny because I mean, I guess because we're both coming from more conservative cultures. So
Yeah.
I also know, like back home, like I mean, I know for sure my friends would frown on us wearing shorts or anything like that. It's like, why are you wearing a short? Like, fine, like you wear skirts and pants, but like, and skirts should be long enough. But yeah, no, it's because people are more free here in the US, and
Mhm.
it's very like interesting just to see how it's less conservative and people have more freedom of you know wearing
Mhm.
whatever they want to wear. It's funny because when I came here, and of course, I mean, I don't know how the weather is in Zambia, but in Kenya, it never gets too hot or too cold. I would say it would probably stay between most of the time between maybe like 60 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit.
Mhm.
Well, that is in Celsius. I should know because I grew up in Celsius, but I don't know that. And it might get slightly colder and slightly warmer, but never hits summer temperatures. So this was
Mhm.
hot for me. And I remember like I wanted to wear what did I want to wear? Oh yeah, shorts. And my sister said, my older sister was like, "Oh no, I mean your African hips are gonna be too big for that shorts. Like don't wear shorts because
Mhm.
like, because you're curvy, you got hips." And I'm just like, huh? Like, and it was if I was like I was still the same. I was like really still petite at that point in time, but it was just
Mhm.
this mentality like, no, you can't wear shorts because like that's not an African thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can relate because my transition, now in the summer I do wear shorts, but it was a transition. So I went from jeans, and then I went to Bermuda shorts. The Bermuda shorts are the ones that like they're below, just right below your knees. So it was like, okay, I'm comfortable. People can see like just my lower part of my leg, and that's it. So I'm like, I'm good. Um and then I looked, for some reason, after a while, Bermuda shorts just didn't seem trendy, and like they didn't look good on me. And then I leveled up, literally going up the knee, and bought
No pun intended.
I leveled up and bought uh shorts that were just right above the knee, and it was hard to find a pair that was just right above and not a short. And then it took another. So this is probably 2 3 years in the US. And then it took another three, I want to say probably another 3 years to finally accept the definition of a short and say this is it. So I it's interesting how I think my mindset has just shifted ever since. But I do remember how I was so surprised that it was just so normal that people were just wearing short shorts, and and tank tops and all of that. So mentally, I guess we have changed. We have changed.
Yeah. I mean, um, it's just interesting though, now that we can actually even see like the differences in people dressing up in different cultures, particularly because like when we came and we started meeting other people from other countries and stuff, it was just really interesting to see everyone's different view of fashion. And obviously, we're not mentioning how Miami is a very trendy place because Miami is a school for rich kids. And, all the J. Crew, North Face, all those brands.
Oh yes, I remember. I remember. I think we were nominated for being one of the best, either like having the best dressed people or having the best looking girls or guys. I don't remember, something like that. We always were like number two or something, but I actually did learn a lot. My fashion went up. Like I learned a lot from just dressing in general. Um, yeah. So I remember that.
That was yeah. That was interesting. I mean, I feel like it was a lot of pressure though, because everyone had this pressure to like look good, wear certain brands and things like that. But I think for me, it was just a whole new thing because honestly, I think before I came to the States, I'd never heard of North Face. I'd never heard of J. Crew. So it was a whole new, like, just learning for me. And it was interesting. I mean, and I do agree they did dress really nicely. So I did also learn a tip or two on how to dress well at Miami. So thank you, Miami.
I know. No, I remember because do you remember were you ever did you ever get involved in like Greek life?
No.
Yeah, because that's where I learned. Because I remember when people used to get ready for the events, and I remember I was staying in Munich Hall, which was a sorority dome or sorority hall, and the ladies would get ready for their events, and you always like, yeah. So it was just, yeah, it was a little bit stressful. Those felt a little bit stressful to want to keep up with the trend. What was the one trend? Oh, the one trend that you remember that was on campus. Like, do you remember the Vera Bradley bags?
Yeah, yeah, I do.
Oh
I'm
Lord, they were ever it ultimately I was like I don't think I could afford Vera Bradley, so I ended up with a like a card holder, like just to put my card, because I was like, this is my limit. I can't do the whole setup of a suitcase and a bag to go to class and things like that. So I don't know, I don't know if you remember other fashion trends.
To be honest, I don't. I think fashion was one of the least, other than the points that I've mentioned, didn't really. But I do remember the Rara Bladley bags, and I really like them still till today. But
This is why it's called the Feminine Outliers, okay? Yeah. Um Speaking of, you mentioned about the different people that were at Miami. I think one of the key takeaways for me was how I left with so many friends that I'm still in touch with. That was like, and it was interesting because Miami was in a small town called Oxford, and it was just isolated. It was almost like, guys, it's us and the rest of the world. And I remember admiring people that had their college in the city, like some city, because we were begging. I mean, we only had what, a Walmart and a Kroger, I think, for
yeah, yes, just one Walmart and just one Kroger.
Yes, we were literally living our best lives in this small town. But I do remember I did like the social life. I think we kept ourselves busy. Um, and so and that's how we actually met. We met, as I mentioned earlier, like at we were part of the African Student Union and International Student Organization.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, that was I. We met people from around the world, and I guess that was something that really connected the two of us.
it really was. Like, to be honest, that was I would say that would be one of my favorite memories of Miami. Just because um I've always tried to be a well-rounded person. So even when it came to my like those organizations I joined, there was one for every different aspect of my life. Um, so like African Student Union, that was for obviously being African and meeting fellow Africans. International Student Organization, because I was essentially an international student. So it was nice to meet other like-minded people who probably have the same experiences about navigating, a new country and a new culture. I was part of MedLife. That was the organization that I chose to help me with my pre-med career. And then I was also part of the navigators for as part of my Christian faith. And yeah, so everything was like really strategic. And then the people I met, I think particularly in International Student Organization and the African Student Union, amazing people. Like it was so amazing to actually meet more people, like get a glimpse of the world. I'd never heard of, for example, I'd never heard of Luxembourg before I came to Miami.
Yeah, yes.
And now meeting all our friends from Luxembourg and stuff, it was amazing. It was it would I would always look forward to our meetings, the meetings, the events. Food in the events was always amazing. um, and the events were always so much fun. It was just nice to see different people's culture, showcase your own culture. It was great, and also because we were on the executive boards of these organizations, like it was also really good leadership opportunities. That honestly, when I think about my most my the part of my college career that I'm most fond of, and that would be it. It's the social aspect of my time in Miami. Because yeah, I mean, don't you remember all those random meetings? The dance parties with ASU. It used to be
Mm-hmm.
much fun.
Yeah, no, you're right, actually. I remember, I think the first time I heard about Luxembourg, I was like, wait, where is that again? So yes, it was, oh man, that's what I liked about Miami was it was small, intimate, and we got to know people really well, and we got to know each other's culture, and we would celebrate it, and we did the best we can with what we had,
Right.
um, and how we performed at the events that were hosted, the dancing events, and we hosted our own events. We dressed up. Did you go with the ISO? Did you ever go to Chicago with the it was the trip that we organized every year for international students to go to Chicago as their first city.
Oh, I don't know if I did. I went to
Mm.
Chicago with a different organization, not ISO.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
remember.
no, I remember. Yeah, that was one of it was very memorable because I was an orientation guide, and I was also pretty nervous to do that, but um yeah, no, I just remember having so much fun with the people I went with, and I had such great memories. So no, that was interesting.
I remember the trips to the mall.
Oh yes.
So, because we would go into the bus and go to the mall in Cincinnati, and because and I used to love that because I didn't have a car, so
Exactly.
I just needed to get out of the campus, and that was the one way we could get out by taking the bus to Cincinnati that was just for international students. I used to love going to like the mall and just, and I think also we had a zoo trip when we went to the Cincinnati Zoo.
Oh, I
Um,
missed that one.
yeah, that was they had one in the used to have it in the winter, and it was really pretty because like they had the winter lights,
Oh.
Christmas lights out. It used to be really nice.
Yeah, no, I missed that one. I probably was in the what was the name of the library? Kin's Library?
Yeah, the big
Kin's
one.
Library. I remember it. Oh my goodness. It just came out. Um yeah, that's how much studying I was doing. That's how much studying I was doing. So I missed that one. Um but I'm just thinking about the mall, just that whole picture of not having a car. Yes, and then you're cooped up in this place, and then you're like, oh, civilization. It's
Mhm.
real. It's real. And so, and in a way, I think the way we were set up, it was like you're looking forward to actually graduating and leaving Oxford and going somewhere else.
Right.
Um, I just at some point you started like I started. I don't know if I counted my days per se, but I definitely at some point was like grateful and ready to move on. So, um,
I mean, looking back, part of me is like, I had fun, but I can't believe I actually lived there. I went through that. Like honestly, like now, if you tell me to go back, would I go back to like do it again? No, because I'm like, no. Like being in a college town where you're 1 hour away from what I'd call civilization, really, but you're just 1 hour away from a city or anything like that. Oh, I don't know if I'd do it again. I was fine for that time period of my life, but right
yeah.
now. But another thing that I think with regards to social life that we could probably talk about was being resident assistants.
Mm,
We were both RAs, right?
yes. Yes.
And I used to find that that was very interesting because being African, and
Oh.
I first of all I used to remember being the only like some in some of my halls like I'd be the only black person there, or and I'm the resident assistant, or
Mm-hmm.
just there just weren't as many other obviously black people in Miami. So
Mm-hmm.
and being from Africa and my like the residents in the hall would be so intrigued and
Yes.
curious. They were like they wanted to know a lot about where I'm from, how I grew up. They were
Yes.
just like, who is this person? This is like, and I used to remember like ads answering a lot of questions, and a lot of them were honestly asking. I mean, you might find some kind of ignorant questions here and there, but a lot of them were coming from a genuine place of curiosity
Mm-hmm.
and more. And so I used to love doing things. And like when we had to do like events for them, like I remember like one of the favorite ones was like it's a British American English thing. I did a event like that because when I at that point in time I was really speaking and doing a lot of things in British English because that's what the type of English we speak back home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an issue because in the States they speak American English. So certain words you say Americans would be like, "What did you just say? Why do you call it that?" Like we call like they say swimsuits in the U.S. We say swimming costumes back home, and like,
Right.
why are you calling it a swimming costume? And that's what we call it back home, or like
Yeah.
of a car versus the trunk of a car. So I remember my
Yes.
residents really enjoyed it. I think I used that resident assistant opportunity to really enlighten them and teach them more about like who I am or where I'm from. But at the same time, it also enabled me to learn a lot more about American culture because I was immersed in the hallway and I was able to really learn a lot from them. So it was like a give and take situation, which I mean, I really did enjoy being a resident assistant for the most part. I mean, I enjoy getting my own room. Um,
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
was, and I mean, it wasn't fun when I had to deal with like the peanut butter on the handles incident, or like the
Oh.
guys putting a whole watermelon in the girls' toilets and blocking off the whole entire toilet. It's like, did you have anything better to do with your lives? But yeah, it's silly. Ever since
Oh wow. Oh
that,
wow. Okay, no, I did not. Oh, I did not handle that. I did not. Um, yeah, I do remember a guy walking shirtless, asking for rice, um, in the middle of the night. That was the most random stuff. That is the stuff I got. Um, it's funny that you just mentioned about the uh, uh American versus British English because oh man, that people I remember I was also an orientation guide, like a soul leader. And I remember I would speak very confidently of whatever I would say. So I would say, "Oh, the Oreo biscuits. We're going to have Oreo biscuits." And people would be like, "Oreo biscuits? I've never had." And then they'll be like, "Oh, you mean cookies?" And then it would be like, "Yes, cookies." And then I would say, okay, I would like some chips and a burger, and it would be then potato, then chips in a bag would come instead of French fries. Oh my goodness, my transition to the U.S. in that on this perspective was tough. Was really it was like literally coming to America, Eddie Murphy style. I said, yeah, I called things other things, and that meant other, just it was just a different context. And it was just, and it's funny because I was so confident, like I was like, I know what I'm saying,
hmm.
and why are people laughing, because this is not funny. um and I remember just being so, I don't know, curious and honest about my curiosity. So I remember just being in the dining hall, for example, and I'd be like, wait, so mac and cheese is macaroni and cheese? And I was like, people would be like, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and I would just have those moments, be like, oh, okay, I got it. Um,
Oh my goodness, Joy. This is bringing back memories. But just on what you were saying about that, I just remembered this incident that I'll never forget is when I was in biology lab class, and I was like, I asked like I was asking people like, does anyone have a rubber? Does anyone have a rubber? Because I wanted to I wanted to like erase stuff off my paper, and everyone's looking at me like weird, and I'm like, why is everyone looking at me weird and starts laughing? And they're like, and then someone's like, oh, are you asking for an eraser? And I'm like, yeah, and they're the same thing. And they were like, oh no, rubber here in the United States stands for condom. And it's just like, well, how was I supposed to know that? That was so embarrassing. It was kind
yes,
of, it was
I
funny, but it was embarrassing.
I had a similar experience. At least you were in the lab. I was in my dorm room. So that had a different connotation. Clearly, I was just doing my assignment in my room, people. So, yes. It is yes. That was quite a transition, but eventually, yeah, eventually, you just get a hang of things. Um and yeah, no, I went through a lot with that, but it was one of the, I had fun though. I had fun, and I'm so glad I didn't take it too seriously, and I
Yeah.
didn't feel like out of place. I was just like, well, all right, this is what I said, and moving forward. um and so it was okay. It was okay. I survived. We
You had
survived.
weird. I feel like if you took things too seriously, it would really like it could really affect you mentally and emotionally. But just the fact that you had this like, oh, well, new country, new culture, new everything, it just helps to like just move on. And also honestly it kind of helped, I don't know, in my personal perspective that I was a bit naive because
Yes.
honestly, that I think honestly kind of was a protective factor because I was coming straight from home. I personally had never been to boarding schools. This is my first time living away from home, and I'm living away from home in another country. So there was a bit of naivety as to things were happening here, and it kind of worked in my favor.
No, 100%. Yeah, it's sort of funny how, like you said, now, because now that you know what you know, because you've been in the US for quite some time now, you probably, as you said, wouldn't want to go to Miami
Hmm.
because you'd be like, no, there's no way. And then, but before that, it would have been like, okay, this is just our life. This is what we knew. Because yeah, because I literally Miami or Oxford was my first experience of the US. And so I didn't experience New York City, Atlanta, or Houston, Texas. Like I didn't see all of these places. So there was that like newness to me, and just I was accepting of whatever was, and then just taking it as it comes. Um, and yeah, it did work. It did work in our favor. It did work in our favor.
It totally did.
So how did you? But overall, how did you enjoy? Oh, did you enjoy going to school at Miami, like with your major? I mean, you were a pre-med. I mean, now you're a doctor, so yay! And
Yeah,
now I'm an engineer. So we
yay.
survived. We made it. But looking back, do you think you enjoyed your ride?
I think I did honestly. Um, cannot complain. I had a fun time there. Study wise was a bit stressful. Um, I feel like just getting a hold of like just doing my pre med subjects. I used to look at the business school people. I used to feel like they're living the life.
Business school people. Oh my goodness, they made me feel so bad. I was
Really?
like, I'm an
Because we're
engineering
this
student.
struggling in your sciences, long as classes, and then also I don't know, I don't even remember. I don't know how it was when you got farther into engineering, but chemistry exams were always the last ones in the out of all the exams. Like people are leaving, going home. You're seeing cars. People are leaving, and you still have an exam Friday afternoon.
Oh
Chemistry exam.
yeah, I remember.
And I don't understand who thought about keeping chemistry exams as the last exams before like the holiday season starts. It used to be so like I used to remember that. But like literally I think I personally I struggled a little bit adjusting to the American medical not medical system, the American like system of studying because I feel like now that I look back, I see that America really focuses a lot on critical thinking, which I find that's really important. I think it's really a good thing. But back home, we're just taught to memorize stuff a lot more than
Mm-hmm.
just critically think. And so coming here
Mm-hmm.
and having that integrated into the system kind of meant that I had to work harder because I was not used to the critical thinking way of doing things. Um, that was like a challenge for me. And also like obviously you just don't know much. And then being the fact that no one in my family is a doctor. So there's no one else who could really give me like a lot of like guidance and stuff. I was just kind of navigating this world on my own based off what also my advisor, my school advisor, the pre-med advisor and stuff would tell me. So that was like an interesting challenge on its own. Because looking back, we've had this discussion before. I honestly feel like I would not have done kinesiology and health. I would still be a pre med, but I probably would have done international relations or something like that because that's actually something that's more interested. But I did not know at the time that you can actually do any major and still go to medical
Mm-hmm.
school as long as you have your pre medical prerequisite subjects done. I surely would have done that because I was so pre med. I was in Stanton Hall, the pre med hall, um, residence hall, and everything was just pre med, pre med, pre med.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of like studying and stuff, and I just sometimes I'm like, wow, maybe I could have done something different. But to be honest, I still enjoyed the whole experience. And some of my favorite memories, I had to mention this in the podcast, is when, you remember how we used to stay on opposite sides of campus? And then we
Mm-hmm.
rushing to class. And then we meet in the middle, like, where is that hall? What's Upham Hall? You know how you,
Was
I
that
guess,
because I was staying in Dorsey Hall?
right. But then you were going to, I don't know, the science, some building, and I was going to the other, like, we were crossing and would meet around Upham Hall. And just laugh
Yeah.
and talk because we have to run to class. And it's
Yeah.
like, we just like are crossing each other and laughing and like as you walk, I think you were walking to the physics building or something like that, and I was walking to like where like the biology classes were, which
Yeah.
used to just be really.
Yeah.
I just remember that because everyone used to just burst out laughing, and it's like we're running fast, we're running fast, we have to get to class on time.
Oh man. The other thing that reminds me that you're just reminding me of something that I took with me from home is how back home people are just comfortable talking to each other, like just even telling someone nice shoes or nice dress or whatever. And I remember because I didn't know, like, keep, maybe it's, if you're not related to that person, you can, keep to yourself or whatever. Maybe people also just wanting to be alone and want time to meditate, whatever. I wasn't aware. So I found myself having conversations with strangers a lot. Like just being like, hi, how are you? Nice shoes. Okay. Oh, what are you studying? And it was so funny. And thankfully, people were engaging. But now that I look back, and I'm just like, I will never see those people again.
But
Like,
so it's your personality also, like because I did not do
yeah.
that.
You didn't do that. Okay. So that's just probably me. That was
It's
just
your
like,
personality.
oh, so it was just, anyway, it's just something that I guess I grew up with it. I saw my mom do that a lot when we go shopping as well. Like she was very comfortable talking to a stranger. So maybe I just learned that from her. Um, but it's interesting. Yeah, it was interesting you mentioned about not having a medical doctor in your family because for me it was also me going into engineering. I mean, my dad is an engineer, but I never spent time getting to know his work, and he was a man, and so for me it felt like if it was my brother doing engineering it would make sense. It was actually my brother who encouraged me to do engineering, but I was freaking out. I had probably imposter syndrome before I even started engineering, but if it wasn't for my amazing advisor who shaped literally my time at Miami with my classes and all of that, and we just became really good friends. And so I was really relying on, like you said, just the the staff in the engineering department, and then and the business school people, man, they and I was staying in Dorsey Hall, and every time they would be dressed up, ready, getting ready for a presentation, and I would be like, "Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this?" And I think was it organic chemistry that was the death of so many science careers? I mean, that class was tough. Physical chemistry was also tough. But I remember organic chemistry where people were like, no, I'm not going to become a doctor anymore. Or I'm not doing this. And people would just drop off and do other things. So, um, yeah.
It was physics for me. It wasn't organic
Oh, it was
chemistry.
physics?
It was physics.
Yeah. Yeah, no, those classes. You're right. Those classes were pretty intense, and yeah, it was one of those things where like you just find yourself studying a lot, and then there's the lab part, and working with your lab partner, and that was yeah, that was a very interesting time. But yeah, we are here. Honestly, we are here. So, what would you, if you look back, what would you advise someone who is listening to us right now, and they are either thinking about coming to the US to come and study, they're leaving their, they're about to leave their family, whatever they know. I don't know, whatever, what advice would you give them to prepare them for their experience studying in the US?
Um, Honestly, the first thing I'd do is just do it. Just step outside and do it. A lot of times there's the fear of the unknown. You don't know what you're gonna come across, how it's gonna be, if you're gonna like the place. But in my opinion, like I mean, obviously do your research, know roughly like where you're going or like what your opportunities will be like in that place you're going to. Hopefully, if you know if you want to be in a bigger city, do your due diligence and do your research, but just enjoy the process of applying and also when you're getting there, um, and just go out there and do it. And if something doesn't work out, if you don't like the place, you can always move. At least I know one thing about the Western world that I really appreciate. It's very easy to just get up and go and like or transfer or do some things, just start anew. But I mean, you have to start, put your foot in the door first if you're actually going to get anywhere. If you're still just debating about it, honestly, just try it. I mean, because you, I I almost so I came to Miami on almost a full scholarship. What about you? What was your because you didn't mention, I know you have an interesting like application story for Miami, and I feel like yours might be really good for giving people like advice and stuff. If they're thinking about coming to the States or the UK.
Oh, wow, yeah. Yeah, well, I, to be fair, for me, the whole experience of coming to the US was, I think it's almost a miracle or a calling or a purpose. Because I didn't actually have the US in my plans to say I want to come to the US. I had a little bit of family, but not my immediate family. So my nuclear family was all at home. So I never really felt, oh, I need to go out. But I did have curiosity. My curiosity grew as I traveled locally, like to South Africa, Swaziland, Namibia. It opened up my it just opened up my eyes and just making me realize there's more to what is at home. And I just was, even when I was at home, I was craving a challenge, and I was craving something more than what I was experiencing. I couldn't wait to graduate from high school and move on to something else. And so when I was doing these travels, I was just like, ooh, it would be nice to travel and live outside Zambia. So that literally was my guiding light. And so when I graduated and I was looking for a college, it's my parents, I think, may have just thought, okay, she's just going to go to the local university. And it was my default in terms of, oh, I'm going to go to the local university. But inside me, there was just a burning desire to go travel and just see the world. That was all I had. And funny enough, the way things worked, and like the way the universe came and just put things together, like a friend advising me on how to apply to US colleges, and working with the United States embassy in Lusaka, and just having a great advisor. And because I was applying at a point where the application deadlines were pretty close, so I couldn't take advantage of financial aid from certain universities. Like, let's say if I wanted to go to Harvard, I think I was already too late for that. But um, I just said, you know what, I am going to give it my best shot. Like, I'm just going to be authentic in my essays when I was applying and just say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I've done, and this is what I plan to be. And I remember in my essay, I remember saying, I want to be a water engineer, and this is why I want to be a water engineer. And I didn't even know how that was going to happen. Um, I didn't even do much research, but yeah, I did it, and yes, Miami did offer a scholarship as well, as you said, almost full scholarship, and so that was what I went with, and I said, I'm going to go. And this was like my, my ticket to start this journey of traveling. I didn't even have a plan of like what to do next in the second year, the third year, the fourth year. But I like what you said, just do it. Um, because, and just do it and just take on each stage truthfully and authentically, because that was my thing. Like, I didn't know what mac and cheese was, like, I didn't know what the ingredients were. I mean, it was intuitive, but I was like, I don't know this, I'm gonna try it, I'm gonna keep going. So yeah, that's what I would say. I don't think there's a secret sauce to it. um and yes, the US does give you that opportunity to try things and figure out who you are, and your success. So yeah, just do it. I guess, as Nike says. um but yeah, no, this was fun. I guess it would be nice to talk about our time outside of college, which we are going to do it in another episode, just to see the transition that we have had and how we are getting on in our professional lives. So, until next time, have fun, live large, and don't be afraid to be an outlier.
Thank you guys. See you next time.
Thank you. See ya.